Welcome to this evening's meeting. Thank you for finding time to join us, irrespective of your busy schedule. Um, Today, I will be doing a presentation, and I like excuse me. Okay, so we've taken time to introduce ourselves, and today I want to talk about what I consider a paradox, and at the same time, I consider it Africa's comparative advantage. Now, why do I look at it from this angle? Because I look at the fact that Africa seems to be the most the poorest continent in the world, and virtually, not virtually, all the nations or countries in Africa are considered underdeveloped nations. And and I keep asking myself, when will Africa come out of this category or come out of this? Are we doing the right thing? Africa come out of poverty? I mean, can Africa come out of the current status in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years to come? Now, that's a mystery. I can't tell you is a yes or is a no. That's why I said it's a paradox. So I decided to bring a couple of statistics because what I'm going to do today will be more of sharing statistics. But pardon me for those of you who might not know me. Let me quickly do a short introduction about myself. My name is Uko George. I'm a data analyst, a digital strategist, and co-founder of. And I have background in telecoms, and but what I do personally right now, what I do majorly right now is data analytics. I'm a certified Google Analytics expert. I'm also certified Facebook media planning professional, and I'm also an expert with IBM Watson's for analytics. So that's just a quick background about me. So quick. Years ago, I read this book called The Mystery of Capital. And the book was written by someone from Peru. His name is Hernando De Soto. And he had this perspective to about Africa or the poor in general, not just Africa, though he zeroed down on Africa, but it was more like the poor. Now, Hernando, according to his research, is an economist. With his team, they did a research and they came up with some mind-boggling statistics, and they had facts. They are facts. If you can go look for the book, you can Google the book, Mystery of Capital by Hernando De Soto. Now, with a whole lot of facts about capitalism, why some nations remain poor, and why some nations have been able to take advantage of capitalism. And he came up with so many statistics, so many facts. And some of the facts that um, got me was the one I want to share today. And I'm trying to see how I'm going to tie this to the subject, today's subject. Now, one of the facts by Hernando De Soto is that most the poor in general in Africa, most already have resources they need to make success of capitalism. What it's trying to say is that even those we consider to be poor, they already possess or have with them the resources that will make them successful. That's one of the facts that his research came up with. Now, with data as well, Enando was able to prove that of the savings among the poor is 40 times all the foreign aid received since 1945. Now, in Africa, to be precise, all the savings in the hands of called the poor people in Africa. Now, the value of resource within the hands or the savings of those we consider to be poor is 40 times the entire foreign aid that Africa has ever received since 1945. Now, this struck me, or this keeps strikes me. And now, if this is true, that even the poor have been able to save this amount of they have access to this amount of resource, then why are they still poor? Why are they still poor? Why do we need foreign aid? Now, even the foreign aid that has come into of Africa since 1945 to date, what we possess, what the poor in Africa possess, is 40 times more. So, moving on. Now, also, the statistics is research also brought out the fact that the wealth accumulated by the poor in Egypt. Now, let's look at narrow down to Egypt as a country. The wealth in the hands of the poor in the country of Egypt is 40 times much more in direct investment recorded in that country. 40 times. Now, if the poor in Egypt, I'm not only talking about the middle class or the rich folks. We're now looking at the poor. Now, the poor have been able to accumulate 40 times more than the foreign indirect investment that has come to that country. Now, literally, what that means to me is that if just in the hands of the poor we have so much, do we need foreigners to come invest? Why couldn't we just find a way to bring the resources together and do the investment rather than allow? But anyway, so also another staggering statistics or fact from that same book is that if United States, which seems to be the largest or the richest nation on planet Earth, if United States was to hike its foreign aid 0.7% of its national income, 0.7. Now, this is the recommendation by United Nations to United States that I think all nations, 0.7% of your national income should be allocated to foreign aid. Now, if United States were to do this, it will take United States 150 years to transfer the world, to transfer to the world's poor resources equal to what they already possess. 100 and so that means the poor already has what it's required to make success. But the challenge, according to Hernando De Soto, is that the poor holds its resource in defective form. Now, what do we mean by this? Meaning that the poor has what it takes to make success of capitalism. That's poor nations, either the poor as an individual or poor as a collective. What they have, what they currently possess, is in make success, to make them succeed, to make them grow, to make them come out of poverty. But still, they remain in poverty, abject poverty. And that's because the poor holds its resource in defective form. Now, Hernando looked at the real estate sector that in Africa, because these pieces of land owned by the poor or owned by poor communities are not put into context. Where I come from, even the poor owned property. The landed properties they own has very little value. Why? Because they don't have certificate of occupancy. And now without certificate of occupancy, that the value of that property is, how will I put it? Should I say near zero? Not really near zero, but it reduces the value. Now, just the ability to go get a certificate of occupancy will automatically shoot the value of that property. But yet the poor don't think like that. They don't even think like that. They have tiny bits of properties or resources around them, but they don't know how to inject value into the resources they have in order to make success of whatever endeavor. So bottom line is that the poor, whether as an individual, the poor, whether as a collective, the poor, either as a nation, already have the resources available. I mean, they have can make them successful. But because they hold on to it in defective form, they don't know how to inject value into the resource or value into the assets, then they remain poor. Now, how does this relate to Africa? Let's look at how it relates to Africa. Now, for me, Africa's most valuable resource or asset, what does Africa possess that other continents, other nations, other continents do not possess? Now, they say Africa has the richest raw material. We're not going to look at raw material because there's no raw material you will find in Africa that cannot be found in other continents. Yes, you might have maybe the volume in terms of quantity more in Africa than you do in other continents, but you can still find. But the only thing, the only asset Africa has, which I consider the comparative advantage or the Africa's Africa 65% of the world under 20 currently walls under 5 are in Africa. So in Africa will be resident in Africa by 2030. Now, according to studies, now this data I got from United Nations, World Bank, and World Economic Forum. Now, they're also going to say that Africa churns out 20 million well-educated young people who join the workforce yearly for the next 3 decades from 2020, 2000, 2030, 2040. Africa will keep churning out 20 million well-educated young people. And 42% of the world's workforce has already been forecasted. 42% workforce has been forecasted by 2030. Now, Africans' workforce forecasted to grow for as much as 42% by the year 2020. That is in the year 2020. And from 42%, that number will double by the year 2050. Now, what am I saying? The youth population is Africa. One advantage Africa has above every continent. But how are we faring? Now, let's look at the demographic structure in sub-Saharan African. Now, look at this. If you look at the diagram, or if you look at the chart, you can see that a large majority is under 15. And we have 15 to 24, 25 to 54, and so on and so forth. This is just to give you a picture of what I was just talking about previous. Now, look at this. The median demographics by continent. Now, if you look at this chart, or if you look at this, look at it properly, you could see that Africa has the youngest in terms of median age, 18. Look at other continents. You can see even in Canada, let's take country, like Canada, for instance, 42. America, 38.1. Mexico, 28. And 47.3. That's the average age in Japan. Every other continent, aside maybe a couple of countries, selected countries in those continents, have what we call an aging population. Africa is the only continent with a young population. What this simply means is that in the next couple of years, the large percentage of the workforce, global workforce, will come from Africa. A lot of the other continents will experience what we call the aging population. Those working today in the next 20 years will be out of the workforce. A majority of them will be out of the workforce, and organizations, companies, nations will have no option than to look to Africa. Why? Because Africa will be will be in not too long to come. I just brought these diagrams to buttress my point further so that you get to see that when I say that Africa is the has the youngest population. It is not a facade. If you look at the graph, you could see Nigeria. You could see other nations from United States. You see North America, you have Central America, you have South America, you have Europe, you have Asia, you have the Middle East, you have Australia. Every other continent has an aging population, which has its own drawback. And Africa, definitely, I'm not saying that Africa's young population doesn't have a drawback, but there is a more advantage to Africans' young population than now. Quickly, but what is Africa really doing? Because I just want to quickly go through the slides so that we can have this conversation. We can have a conversation. So I'm not going to take so much time talking. Now, what Africa has is what economists call demographic dividends. Now, what is demographic dividend? The economic growth potential that can result from shift in a population age structure, mainly when the share of the working age population is larger than the non-working age share of the population. Now, demographic dividend is the advantage Africa has. And now this is a definition by United Nations Fund. Africa has the advantage as far as its young population is concerned, and this is Africa's greatest asset. Now, every other continent or nation work on their strength. Now, this is Africa's strength, but what are we doing as Africans, whether as government or as individuals? Now, let's take a look at this chart. Now, this human capital optimization in Africa. The world's average is currently 65%, but in Africa, it is currently 55%. Now, if you look at to your left hand side of the chart, you could see, or you would see, you'll see the human capital optimization index per nation. Now, I just brought out of the 58 nations, I brought out 3 and the bottom 3, and it will surprise you where Nigeria is. Now, as far as this is concerned, nations in Africa that optimizes human capital, Mauritius, the tiny nation as Mauritius, seems to be number 1. Now, Ghana, our next door neighbor, number 2, and then South Africa. And then there are a host of nations, but the bottom 3 is Mali, Nigeria, and Chile. Look at where Nigeria, your country, is. I know a lot of us are Nigerians. I don't know if the Kenyans have joined us, but look at where Nigeria is. That means we are not optimizing human capital. And this is our greatest asset. This is our most valuable asset. Moving forward. Moving on. I guess my slide. Sorry. My screen is frozen. Okay, like I was saying, we are not optimizing. We're not optimizing at all. Now, if the world's average is 65%, Nigeria, let's say about 50%. So that means the human capital available in this country is not being optimized. And that's a big concern as far as I'm concerned. Please give me a couple of minutes. Let me try and see if I can unfreeze my screen. Now,
can you try to stop sharing and then me sharing it again?
Okay, sharing and reshare again.
Yes, please.
All right, I've done that. So I share again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay, so I guess. All right, so let's see if it works this time around. Okay, so yes. So moving on. Now let's go back. Okay, the quality of education, the education system in Africa. Like I said, I don't want to do much of talking because I want it to be conversational, but I just wanted us to look at a couple of these, a couple of statistics, a couple of data to help inform our conversation or our discussion when we get to that point. Now look at this. That seems to Now this is a research carried out by World Economic Forum. As far as Africa is concerned, Kenya has the best educational system, and check out where it is again. This this I must say to be true because I remember 2 weeks ago when we had our colleagues or from Kenya, and she said something about during this COVID-19 that the university have already started in June. They started online tutorials, virtual lessons, virtual classes, and that came as a surprise to me because even in Nigeria, that we used to be the giant Africa by population anyway, um, such hasn't taken place except the private universities. And I remember asking her, is it public universities or private universities? And she said specifically that it is the public universities. Nigeria, no public university has gone virtual. We're all waiting for COVID we open schools. Anyway, this is how we stand, and this is concern because if we say or if we stand to understand that the young population in Africa or the young population in Nigeria is Nigeria's future or is Nigeria's greatest asset because that's the only thing we have compared to other nations, whether the developed nations or not. If we seem to understand that this is our greatest asset, yet we're not injecting value. Remember how we started that it is about holding your asset, holding your resource in defective form. Okay, so let's look at some of the related issues, youth related issues. Now, if you take a look at Nigeria, personally, Nigeria categorically, now 1.6%. Now the youth and sport ministry. I'm looking at things that has to do with the young population. Now the budget for youth and sport is just 1.6% of the total budget. Now this is we don't have a youth and sport. Now 1.69% of 10 trillion naira budget is allocated to this ministry. Now this is a ministry that is supposed to oversee things that has to do with youth related issues. And out of that 98.2% of the ministry's budget has already been allocated to recurrent expenditure. That is for salaries, allowance, and stuff like that. And the remaining 1.8% for capital expenditure. 1.8% for capital expenditure. And when I did dig a little bit further, I discovered that even the 1.8% was actually channeled or allocated to sports. No youth capacity program, no initiative that has to do with building youth capacity except sports. And I went as far as looking at the education sector. Now, like I said, this is a sector that concerns the youth, the young population. Now, 6.7% of the 2020 is allocated to education. But 90% of this ministry, of this amount, is going to be spent. I don't know if you guys are getting, if you're going to. And SMIDAN is Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency of Nigeria, the body or the government agency in charge of creating an enable environment for small businesses to grow. Now, I know small businesses doesn't only have to do with the young population or the youth population, but I believe this also concerns the youth. But look at this: only 4 billion that caters for over 41.5 SME in Nigeria. So you can Google this stat. It's available online, so it's not as if it's hidden. These are public information. Billion allocated to 41.5 SMEs. The number of SMEs registered in Nigeria is 41.5. And what do you have? 4.5 or 4 billion as budgetary allocation. Presidency, and look at the National Assembly's budget. Over 100 allocated to the National Assembly and the presidency. Now, can you compare population or the number of people that will be catered for under this budget as against the millions of young Nigerians out there in the streets? Think around this, think on this for a while. 130 billion. Now, I'm not trying to instigate you against government or anything, but what I'm trying to show you is that what I'm trying to show you is that we are not doing the right thing. Just like Hernando De Soto says, that the poor holds its risk in defective form. Africa, leaders in Africa, African nations, and African countries, and even Africans themselves don't seem to understand or are yet to realize that the greatest asset they have to compete against any other continent, or to ensure that we bridge the gap between Africa and other continents, nations and other nations or developed nations, is by investing in the youth. Investing in the youth. We say it all the time, but we're paying lip service to it. One so that we can go to we can move ahead with our conversation. Now look at this. Africa's capacity to adapt and exposure to the future of jobs. Now the fourth industrial revolution is here and we're further making inroad. Now look at this chart. Look at the chart properly. If you don't understand, let me explain. Now, what this chart is trying to say is that capacity built by is in Africa and how they are going to adapt to the changing nature of work and how exposed they are to industrial revolution or to job disruption. You can see where is Rwanda, Ghana, and Malawi. These are high capacity but low exposure, meaning that they built enough capacity or they built capacity to an extent because this is the world's average. They built capacity above the world's average, but they're not yet exposed. The level of exposure to job disruption or the fourth industrial revolution is still low. Now, if you look at the other side, you have Kenya and South Africa. Kenya capacity means they built capacity and they also have high exposure to the future of work, to the fourth industrial and job disruption, meaning that they have capacity to adapt to an extent. They have the capacity to adapt. And South Africa, low capacity, but high exposure, not yet ready, but and the exposure to the fourth industrial revolution and to job disruption is high. While the last category in the lower quadrant, you could see that that's where my beloved country falls under Nigeria. Low capacity, low exposure. We claim we are giants of Africa. Look at where the category we are. Nigeria by World Economic Forum, Nigeria is not ready for the future of work. Nigeria is not ready for job disruption. Nigeria is not ready for the fourth industrial revolution. Yes, we're not that much exposed to it, but at the same time, we don't have we've not built enough capacity. So adapting is going to be difficult, very, very difficult. Now, explain a little bit further what the implication. Now, for nations under the low quadrant, that's quadrant one, low capacity, low exposure, the recommendation by World Economic Forum is that these economies have a window of opportunity for engaging in low delayed reforms, and their effort should particularly be focused on strengthening basic education as well as building a strong technical, vocational, and education training, technical, vocation, and education and training now system to lay a foundation for the future. That is the recommendation for nations like Nigeria. Now, for nations, quadrant two, high capacity, high exposure, where you have Kenya, countries, urgent reskilling and upskilling effort are needed, focusing in particular on higher education and adult learning. Now, for high capacity and low exposure, what this that there is no room for complacency. These are for nations like Ghana, and effort to embed a culture of long learning and continuous upskilling are needed. Now, in a nutshell, in a nutshell, Nigeria, Nigeria is not ready. Your nation is not ready. So it behoves on you. Let me not say further because quickly I want to wrap up. Now, what do we need to do as a nation? Because at the end of the we'll be talking about Nigeria, we were going to be talking about ourselves. I only brought up this presentation to show you that if you are waiting for your nation, if you're waiting for the country, if you're waiting for your leaders, you're on a long thing, like we say in Nigeria. So think of what to do for yourself. So what is the recommendation? What are the recommendations for countries, for nations in Africa? First of all, close the African data gap and also close its digital skill. What I say, it is difficult to close the digital skills gap in Africa because of sufficient data. Now, if this is done, it will help us. We need to understand the disruptive change on the way to facilitate workforce planning, because we us where the work, where jobs, where the opportunities that are available in the market against the skills that are available. We don't have enough data. Now, doing this will enable nations or countries like Nigeria understand the disruptive change and also planning the future workforce. Now, firms need to align their talent strategies to a broader innovation strategy. Collaborations between business and education sector, and then collaboration between firms that are seeking to address in their own workforce as well as communities around them. Now, in closing, opportunity. Sub-Saharan Africa has the potential to unleash new economic possibilities created by future industries and labor markets, dramatically raising labor productivity and per capita incomes, diversifying its economy and becoming an engine for stable economic growth, higher skill talent, and job creation for decades to come. This message is not for you. So extract this from before we carried out the data. These are veritable, credible source of information. Economic Forum, Nation, Bureau of Statistics, that is Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, and Statistics and UNESCO. Now, I've come to the end of. So now let's head to the conversation. To you all this information. Now, let's put government aside. Let's ask the question: what can we individually do? Because one, the fourth industrial is real, generation is real, and is here. What can we do in our own capacity in order to ourselves help survive the future of work? As poverty continues to increase, so will insecurity increase. As poverty continues to increase, will Africa's backwardness continue? Now, some of us might say, okay, it's of my business. I can only focus on. But the truth of the matter is that here in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But the truth of the matter is that be here, your children are going to be here. They're going to be here. Now, what kind of society are we building for the future generation? As you can see, a larger percentage of Africa's population is under 15. And this generation, what living or will we live for them in the future? If you look at what would I call it? The insecurity in Nigeria, you find out that the regions we consider poor nations are the poor states, are where you have the majority, the tendency of the insecurity is high over there. The northern part of Nigeria, where so my question to us: what can we do? And this question is thrown to everybody. What can we do individually? What can we do as a collective to mitigate or to guard against the pending doom? Because it is clear that as a nation or as a collective or as country, we are not doing what is required. We're not investing in what I consider our greatest assets. There is no we can compete with America, compete with Canada, compete with Great Britain. The only competitive advantage we have is our youth population. And if we continue to treat the youth population the way it is, and if the youth population of themselves don't realize that they are Africa's greatest asset or they are Nigeria's greatest asset and continue currently, that means next 20 years, next 10 years, when the focus will be on Africa to provide the majority of the global workforce, now the world will be in dilemma. This is for why majority of the companies are efforts into Africa. The IBM, Google, Facebook, and trying to see how they can help young Africans scale their knowledge as far as emerging technology is concerned to prepare them for job disruption that is coming, so that they will not be out of man labor or skill when that time comes. Or what are we put learn, align themselves, and begin to reposition themselves for opportunity that is coming. A lot of young people are not. Now, they complain we have so many persons that have signed up, about 150 of them signed up for the collab of the future jobs. But from moral indication, a lot of them are just docile. They're passive, they're not participating. And if you go ahead and ask, you'll find out that they'll tell you because it's online learning, they're not ready to burn data. Now, just like I said, you're holding your resource in defective order. What you need to do is inject value into the resources you have. And if you're able to do that, then you will make success of your endeavor. So please let my presentation. So I don't know if Niles is still there. I want us to kickstart the conversation. What can we do? It's a question for me. I must say, I don't know, it's like a burden. It's like a burden, a huge one. What sort of country will my children grow in? Will I live for my children? I have my first daughter is heading to 4 by November, and my second daughter will be 2 by November. Is it going to be a country that is ravaged by war? Look at what Mali. Look at what is happening in war in countries in Africa. This is strictly because of poverty. Poverty. So, what sort of countries are we going to leave? So now, if you're still there, please let's kickstart. Can you just moderate? Like I said, I want it to be a conversation. That's why I tried to see how much as possible to shorten my presentation so that we can discuss what can we do in the narratives as far as youth capacity is concerned in Africa. Thank you.
Can you hear me, Mr. George?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So thank you so much for the awesome presentation you have delivered here, just giving us an insight into um, some really solid statistics around the fact that we have resources and those resources are not being leveraged. The question I want to, so I've been studying China a little bit, and what I realized is that over the past 10 years, that China was not always, this industrious, okay? But something has happened over the past 10 years that has driven how industrious they've become, okay? And so one of the things that I noticed was the idea of having incubation kind of hubs. Incubation hubs is basically a place where people could come and the youth or innovators or entrepreneurs can come. And basically, they get a lot of opportunity to sit down and think about the problems that they have. And then they work together to come up with ideas and how to solve those problems, whether for the nation or for other nations. In Nigeria, do you know of such initiative? Because I think, when you talk about the fact that we cannot wait for the government, it's left for us. It's left for us to create an environment, to create a legacy that we can enjoy amongst ourselves, and we can even live for our future. Okay, so do we have any such thing as incubation hubs that you know about, or anyone else in the room can also address that?
Hubs. Yes, we have, really speaking, a couple of them run by individuals, but these are small hubs with little capacity, and they're trying to the best of their ability, but the kind of result we operating in silos. Yes, we do. We have a but is not there. They don't have the support.
Yeah, most of the hubs that most of the incubation hubs that I'm speaking about are typically like, sometimes there are different kinds of them. Sometimes the enterprise basically spins out an incubation hub. So basically that enterprise would fund a set of individuals to go and spend their days and night, whatever it takes, however how long it takes to incubate and come up with an idea and solve a problem, or from the perspective of the individuals. And no, it cannot it can not only start from like the private enterprise that you're talking about, a private company, a small company. That's great, but we need funding. We need resources. We're gonna need brains. We're gonna need people that can think for themselves, people that can challenge the current narrative, right? It's just something that I'm thinking about, and just wondering if there's something that's there already or not. But thank you for
There is.
sharing.
I don't think there's any run by large organizations. Like I said, the hubs that we have are run by small businesses scattered all over. So I don't think there is any large corporation or large organization that has invested into such a system. I don't know if anybody in the audience, I mean, well, you can unmute yourself and let's have this conversation. If you know of any, please say. But for me, I don't think there is. I've not come across any. The ones I know are run by private individuals. Like we have the CC Ops, we have the co-creation Ops in Lagos, which are we have several. Some of them we have started innovation hub in Yo. We have Root Up. These are small hubs run by private small businesses. So they don't have the capacity to churn out the kind of results that you and I are looking out for. They don't even have the kind of manpower, skill manpower, not even there as well. So, like I said, if you can join the conversation, if you know of any, please go ahead. Now, Niles have said something very instructive. Now, the hub system is one way that one approach that we could use to address this digital skill gap and also prepare our young people for the future work. That's one. So if you have suggestion, I'm taking down notes because seriously, like I said, it is a concern for me. It's a huge concern for me. It's like a burden. When I look at the statistics, since I do a lot of data, it gets scary. That what are we really doing? Where we're heading? Do we want to extend for the rest of? Let me not go there. So, any other person? No. Morning.
Good evening.
Mr. Victor, great to have you.
Yeah. In fact, Mr. Ko, you've succeeded in adding more headache to me this day. I had to take a malaria. I don't know, but listening to your presentation, you succeeded in increasing it because anytime I hear about Nigeria's challenges being discussed like this, it keeps increasing my headache. One, perfect presentation. Thank you for steering something with me because, like I told the last time I had we had the meeting, I talked about a book I wrote, Capacity Building for Future Development and for Socioeconomic Imperfection, something like that. One of my mentors said, made a quote, that's Bishop David Oyedepo, said that talent is the greatest capital in the business of life.
Yeah.
The question is, there are some things we cannot avoid, in as much as we say let's talk on this issue on our own without involving the government. The government is a major stakeholder. We can't take away government in this issue at all. Because when you talk of issues that have to do with policy formulation and implementation, government is a key. The kind of presentation you made now, there are some fora you need to take this presentation to awaken some key stakeholders for them to understand with the statistics and the analysis, with the figures we are churning out, all that. There are some stakeholders that need to be aware of this because we can't continue going the way we are going like this without engage. The government must engage at all levels. Then Africa is sitting on a huge asset. That is the youth, which you made mention of. Okay, look at I just did a little search. the Empower program, the government, I think as at 13th of July 2019, they said they spent not less than 279 billion on that program between the space of 2016 to 2019. If you ask me, some of them even, I think about over 500,000 beneficiaries who participated in that program. I think of recent, I saw some who went and were carrying placards saying they must give them permanent job and so on and so forth. Then I sat down and asked myself, we spent 279 billion. Does it mean that there was no value added to these youths to empower them for them to be self-independent? It's a serious issue, which means it has to do with a wrong policy formulation. I don't know people who create Empower idea. Whether there is, I don't know the brains behind that, but to me, it does not fulfill the need. It is a waste of resources. If at the end of the day, youths are trained and at the day they are not empowered, it was money that was wasted. That's my own opinion. Anybody can say anything different. Assuming that amount of money, 279 billion, for instance, would have taken it for building, putting up, or reinforcing some of our technical schools nationwide. Assuming every state now have a technical school that would be, when you talk of they have trainings that has to do with current skill set in IT, we talk of Android development, cloud development, all these IT skills you can never talk of. Then look at the automotive and so on. Technical skills, purely technical skills, carpentry and so on and so forth. Build them on these skills. This money would have popped into this kind of program. My brother, seriously, would have been value for money. But we have channeled those resources, and at the end of the day, the same people you channel those resources, paying them 30,000 naira per month. At the end of the day, they are still all over the roads and carrying placards that they need permanent job. We cannot take away government from this issue. It's a serious issue. My own concern is how can we take this message to the key stakeholders at all levels of government and engage them. We need to engage them so that we can rob minds, even the NGOs and every other key stakeholder must be part of this, because we can, if we don't formulate the right policy to sincerely, we cannot make a headway. I think that's my own take. Thank you for the presentation. Quite impactful.
Wow. Another Victor, you've said, you've dropped a whole lot of valid points, and it's a concern. It's a huge concern, like you said. Personally, if I must make input into what you just said about the Empower. When I saw the Empower scheme, personally, I looked through the program and I knew it was going to be a big waste, because you were only preparing these young persons to look for a job. The best youth initiative for me personally, I don't know, maybe any other person might disagree, but for me personally, the best youth initiative we've had in this country has been the UWIN. The UWIN actually encourage entrepreneurship, where people who had small businesses or who had business idea could pitch their ideas and get grants. Yes, they will say that a whole lot of that went down the drain, but but at the same time, I've been able, I can see evidence of certain people who got UWIN grants and their businesses functioning today, and they are employed people. Now, I believe in the 20/80 rule, the Pareto's theory, meaning that 20% of whatever you actually bring value. So let go of the 80%. Now, if 20% of those who got UWIN grants were able to succeed in their business endeavor and have been able to employ, personally, like I said, the child, my daughters are currently attending a school that started with the UWIN grant. Now, the proprietor of this school and the husband are both educationists. They are educated. She's a PhD holder. She had this coming into the education sector and changing. And she did a presentation during UWIN, and she got a grant, and she started the school. Is one, I must say, I'm not missing word. I'm not just promoting the institution. The school is one of the best in the city as we speak. Started with a UWIN grant, I think 10 million. And with that 10 million today, the school is ranked among the best private pre-secondary school, that's nursery, primary school, kindergarten in the state as I speak. one of the best, good enough that I had to even take my kids there. And I've seen parents who are taking kids from other school to that school and talk about, there are lots of businesses, I must say. So for me, I feel they would have continued with you win, building entrepreneurs, people who had good business idea, encouraging entrepreneurship. Government cannot create enough jobs. They would have looked at continue with UWIN and then looked at technical and vocational education, like you said, training people on the skills that are required, the skills of the future, not even the future, the skills of today. Now, there is no way you train me as a software engineer and I'll be looking out for a job when I know sit down and create a solution that solves real problem. Well, let me not take the whole of the day. So I just wanted to chip that in because for me, the empire right from onset, I knew from the onset it was dead on arrival because they're just pushing people to ministries, pushing young people to ministry, pushing young people to schools to teach, and then at the end of the day, you can't create the jobs for them to now wait for them to work. So what? Anyway, please let's move on. Good suggestion by Mr. Nanamba. Take the conversation to this that I don't know because the stakeholders would not come to a presentation like this. So I don't know if anybody has a suggestion as we are as regard we taking such presentation, the conversation to the stakeholders. So please make your input. Niles has made a valid point about setting up enterprise hubs by large organizations, and then Victor also talked about moving this conversation to the stakeholders so that we can look at our policy and redirect our policy in order to favor youth initiatives. So please, some other person should say something. If your microphone shy, I'm going to call and pick on name. Stephen, are you there? I can see you, Stephen. Stephen. Steve Abraham, I know you have something to say. So how can we engage? How can we change the narrative?
Hello, Steve. Steve, are you there? Steve, are you there?
Are you there? Yeah. Yes, I am. Sure.
Say something. We can hear you music on your background. Go ahead. We can still hear you.
Okay, I think first thing first is the orientation, because I see the fact that the Future of Jobs program is actually really changing our paradigm in terms of the mentality by talking about these issues. So definitely putting us in that light and help understand that this is a challenge and repriming our mind. I think that's this. I mean, for first of all, I would say that more of this kind of events should be done. We can leverage maybe when we are opportune to come on board, where we can actually influence decisions. Because I'm coming from the standpoint of influencing. I'm of the opinion that youths like us, we should be able to write, I don't know, but petitions, if we can petitions, because we don't know how to place a demand, actually communicate effectively. So by the time we get to that inviting us to maybe Hilton Mansion, Nassau Rock, we don't even have what to request for. So the first thing I would say is I heard now say that the first she contributed in terms of ops, and the other person in terms of the stakeholders. I also think that this kind of meeting, kind of webinar series, it's also helpful to continue doing it and then scale it up to have more people come on board, which will that should opportunities come, we can talk about it among peers, and then we can always drive the change.
All right, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Um, like you said, drop something on the chat. Let me quickly see. How do we bring more people? This is coming from Niles. Okay, asking. Okay, yeah. Is Niles is asking, how do we bring in more people? Steve, that question is directed at you. How do we bring in more people? Conversation.
First of
Still talking about.
I would say personally that working with you has reoriented my mind. So I've come into a level of influence, first of all. So I believe that as I've been able to drink from maybe a water, and I know that this water is good for people, I'll be able to also influence my people to come on board this kind of stuff. So for the people that I think that one thing that you can do for yourself is to add more value to your, that people want to join themselves to you. And as a leader and operating on that level of influence, you can also increase the network of people having this kind of mind, having this kind of vision, and being part of this tribe. So that's my own way for us personally with the level of influence.
Bring people within your circle of influence, the conversation to be part of what you're doing. So, okay, that means that, like for instance, now we're having a webinar like this. The question would be, how many of us were able to share and to influence people within our circle of our spheres of influence to be part of the webinar? That's a good one too, because like now said, how can we bring in more people? That means we take it as personal responsibility. We feel that what we're doing here is of value to ensure that we bring more people on board. The more people we bring, the more we spread the word. The more we spread the word, then eventually we might stumble on somebody who is within decision-making body in the organizations or in government that can help us also scale this conversation the more. We really need to scale this conversation. We need to take the conversation to stakeholders. We need to engage them. But I don't want our conversation to be directed only at stakeholders. Of course, when you talk about stakeholders, we're also stakeholders. So I don't want us to zero in on the government alone. We should also look at what can we as individuals do to change the narrative. We'll give the policy direction. They are the ones with the financial capacity to effect the kind of change we want within our own little community, within our own little spheres of influence. We can as well do something. If I do something now, does, Honor does, and another does, gradually we will be changing the narrative, I believe. So please, I guess I'm seeing Emmanuel, Sam, your face is up. I'm sure you want to say something. Okay. Another person, if Emmanuel want to say something, just go ahead.
Please, I'm just joining the meeting now. So,
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. No problem. So while maybe in the course of the conversation, you'll be able to chip in something. Okay, so any other person that wants to say something, we're taking down 3 points right now. I'm writing down this point because I'm very, very concerned. As a matter of fact, maybe I should share a little bit about my background, why I'm doing the stuff I am doing currently. Now, I've always been a situation whereby when I go to a church, they always want me to become a pastor. And each time they try to drag me to become a pulpit minister, there's something in me that nudges me on the inside that yes, I have a calling because we all have a calling, but my calling is not to be a minister of the pulpit. And for some time in my years, I've been struggling with what does my how to deploy my calling, how do I function, and I don't know, somehow project the future of jobs. It just dawned on me that this is my own area of ministry, period. This is how, this is my calling. How do I change the narrative? How do I help the next generation, the generation after me, the generation after the generation after me, make success of stuff? Because this thing called poverty and the backwardness of African nation or Nigeria, and the leaders are not really paying attention. Well, anyway, I am taking down notes that I'm going to share with my team, the things that I'm taking, the notes I'm taking. Do we deploy these suggestions that are coming from participants this evening? I've taken down three, so some other kind of suggestion. Niles, you want to say
Okay.
something?
Okay.
Come in.
Okay, Emmanuel. Okay, Emmanuel, yeah.
Yeah. Mr. George, I appreciate what you are saying. I appreciate the presentation. It was rich with statistics. I say the knowledge is in the numbers. The statistics. What you have just said is just a clear, you know, visualization of the situation of, as far as our system is concerned. When you talk about um, human development, human development stands on so many pillars. Is not the responsibility of only one person. You talk about the individual himself. You talk about the family. You talk about the society. Then you talk about religion. You now talk about government. Each of these pillars have their own role to play in the development of every child. But the most important is the child himself. It's not enough to launch, laudable and whatever. Nobody will love you more than yourself. When you go into the streets and see what our young people are doing, they are not ready to learn. They just want to cut the flower and eat the fruit. Nobody wants to grow. Okay, we are talking about technology, talking about devices, repairs, all of those things. Do you know that if you buy a very good phone now, that phone has a very serious problem, or it might not even be a serious problem, just a minor problem, it can condemn that phone for you. And yet, when you pass across the street, you see all manner of boys sitting under umbrellas. All of them are claiming that they are repairing phone. Those that are claiming they are repairing laptop. Those that are claiming. That was how my laptop was destroyed. Do you know my laptop? Started having issues with just booting, and I took it to repairers, laptop repairers. And there were even some who does not even know how to open the laptop. To open the laptop, they destroyed my laptop. It was later on that I got to know that what happened was that my memory was full, and that it was not allowing my system to boot properly. That was why the system was not booting. All they just needed to do was just to decongest the memory by uninstalling certain things, deleting certain file, and my this thing and that was, I spent close to 320,000 to purchase, and that laptop just went like that. And this one, they said they learn. You just go to where they are learning, and you will not come down to learn under your mentor. You are free the way it used to be in the olden days. Well, I don't want to prolong the long story, but the people who are the recipients of this program should themselves be serious, demonstrate their own seriousness, because nobody will break your head and put it there and close. You have to be willing to learn it. Okay, look at the program that is going on now, the IBM Digital Nation Africa. You can see the commitment of the people there. And these are the people who tomorrow they want to go and work in a company and all of these things. And then they are given a task and then they messed up. They will not come down. They will give you all kinds of excuses. They don't have data, they don't have this, they don't have that. There are some people that like me now, my data is always on 2.4. I know it has its own this thing, but why I leave it like that? Why, even though as my data is on, I'll be losing something, some data from things happening, downloading of unnecessary files and all of those things. But what about things like this that I'm doing now? What about calls? If somebody should call me with WhatsApp, we talk for almost 30 minutes. We discuss fruitfully. Whatever, if I were to buy a credit and make a call, I know how many minutes I will spend, and the money is finished. So in order not to pull anything, the people who these programs are being designed to by themselves also demonstrate commitment that they are willing to learn it. It's not enough to just come up with powerful programs and this and that, spend money. Let them show that because they used to say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Thank you.
Drop off. Yes, you shared the challenge, which has to do with the mindset, which require focus. How do we solve this problem? How do we address this issue? How do we tackle this issue? The angle I'm particularly concerned about. Yes, we have a lot of layback youth. Yes, we had a lot of youths that are not taking their lives seriously, but no doubt about that. So how do we address it? Now, the addressing part is where I want us to focus on. I want us to focus our energy on. Niles has made a good suggestion about setting up enterprise ops and encouraging large organizations, not just the small private enterprise, the ops that we have, like the Eureka Labs, we have Start Innovation Hub and the rest, but large organizations, for instance, why shouldn't ExxonMobil look at that direction? Why shouldn't Total? Why shouldn't MTN? Why shouldn't this big organization look at things like that? They have the finances, they have the manpower as well. They have the skill manpower. And even if they cannot, if they don't have the skill manpower within the organization, they can attract the skills from wherever the skills are to come to Nigeria and ensure there is this knowledge transfer to this generation of Nigerians. So, like I said, let's zero in on solution. We know a lot of the problems. So you're talking about reorientation. You're talking about changing their mindset. How do we go about that? Mr. Emmanuel,
Well,
Emmanuel Sam.
That the cure for ignorance is teaching. It cannot correct something by ignoring the people. When you look at what is already happening, government already have some programs. Yes, made them that you have mentioned. We have Directorate of Employment and as Bank of Industry, as Bank of Agriculture, and all of those things. But does these people know how to assess these things? And even the government themselves that are coming up with those, how are they trying to connect to this youth? And how are they serious concerning this program? So I think we should first of all start by recruiting or looking for experts who understand how to run all those things and put them in those positions, give them, the support that they need to build it. That was what China did before. China wasn't this big. China has almost the world's biggest population, and they have very powerful economy. They are even now trying to, topple America as the world's biggest economy. So the thing is, put the right people in the right places who will, brainstorm and come up with the right things to do. Then they suggest to government. Government should also listen to them and release the funds that are needed, and then let this program get down to the people. Use radio, use social media. Right now, all the youths are on social media and they are the target. I think it's a very good place to meet them, explain to them, organize even all these online seminars and all of these things. So people will demonstrate interest when they meet it on Facebook or Instagram and all of it. Attract them, build a very good program. It will help. These clusters and these incubation centers that Nice suggested is good. It's also a part of the program. The thing is just to boost and try to see how we can use it to solve the problem that we are confronted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Man. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other person before we wrap up? Because I think we've done we've done an hour, 30 minutes. Already just started 15 minutes. Okay, Mr. Manuel, Sam, you want to say something?
Yes, I want to.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, okay.
Yes.
Based on the discussion I've listened from Mr. Emmanuel, who just finished speaking, I think what I've been able to gather so far is we are trying to consider what we should do to solve certain problems. And I overheard you, Mr. Okojo, talking about informing people who have the manpower, or let me say the resources, like the ExxonMobil, Chevron, to help bring certain things down to the level of the young ones. Okay, so now what I'm trying to say is this. To some of us, we might think because they have that level of positioning. Let me use that word positioning, level of positioning, that they know what they are supposed to do, or what is the next step, or maybe what is the future. But I am very certain to tell you that most of these people don't know. Now, I'll give you an example. I was discussing with one of my friends earlier today, where we are considering probably talking to most of the big malls in town, where they should all create an online stores where people can actually purchase goods from online with their house and go to the mall. So now, considering that most of these malls don't think that is necessary, like they don't think that they should have an online presence where someone could just sit in his house, pick up a phone, either via an application or a website, and get these things. So what I'm trying to say is, I think we should take this information. We know that the world is changing, which definitely Nigeria will also change alongside. So what we need to do, I think, is if we have access to these people, let's picture this idea to them. This is what we are proposing. This is what the world is actually turning into, and we need to position ourselves well. Now, ExxonMobil, they render scholarships, they render all sorts of help, but that is based on the information they have. If they know, for example, now that the world is changing and that in the next few years, all we'll be talking about is technology, technology, technology. If we can give them a reasonable idea, okay, for example, now, I just finished CAG cybersecurity, which Nels was actually our instructor, and I gained so much. If I get such opportunity again, maybe from ExxonMobil or from Chevron sponsoring such ideas, I will get all the way down and attend it. Now, we will not consider the fact that some persons are nonchalant. Right there, we still have people who are looking for this opportunity to just gain certain knowledge and make themselves better, in the process developing the country also. So if we keep considering that we have youth on the streets walking around, and because of that we cannot go ahead and picture the idea we're supposed to picture to the right persons who could actually help the few, Because the truth is, we don't need everybody to be part of this thing. The few that can be part of it can actually make the difference we are looking for. Now, the Nigerian government and Nigeria, this, if we keep looking at all these things, you might not even get anywhere. So what I'm saying, sir, is if we have access to these people, I can bet you most of them don't know. They're not even thinking in this direction. Most of them are not even planning probably what the next 10 years will be and what we should be preparing ourselves for. But if we have a medium where we can bring this idea to them and let them see reasons why they should help us use their finances, use their resources, and drag this level of education down to this side. Because in Nigeria now, most of the time we don't, things like cyber security, artificial intelligence, it's not on the rise. But these are things that definitely we cannot escape. It's coming and it will get here. So if you look at it, the truth is that we are not ready. We are not ready. If we get to a place like ExxonMobil and let them know that this thing is actually coming, we need to be ready. I tell you, we might get people who will sponsor this program, help the young ones who are ready, who to actually gain this knowledge and position us better so that when it comes, we will not start looking for specialists or people outside to help us run these things. We ourselves will be involved because we have people already who have free knowledge of these things, planning ahead for the future. So I really think we should not assume that because the government, anything done by the government here, we should actually count it as nothing. That the government is running this program, the government is running that program. I tell you the truth, to me, in fact, once I see it is government oriented, I might not be interested because I know the end point of it will be politics. But if we have something like a private firm, like ExxonMobil, like Chevron, like any of these buoyant, resourceful companies, bringing such programs, we know it's something that if we go into it, we'll get out of it with something. So please, what I'm saying is if we have the medium of proposing this idea to these better persons, please let's not use the fact that we have streets on the youth on the street who are actually not ready. Sir, we still have people who are ready, who when they get the opportunity, they will do something good.
Yeah, thank you very
So
much.
please, I don't know if that helps anywhere.
Yeah, I would give a standing ovation. I would give a standing ovation for that one. That's awesome. Go ahead, Mr. George.
Yeah, I want to say that all this taking notes because I was wondering how do we scale pointing to the right direction. Now you're talking about we engaging because let's just assume that they know which is true. Let's engage, especially the organized private sector. We need to take, and that's a good one because that's what we're not doing. That's the truth. I don't know if there are other persons who are doing it, but I'm sure a lot of persons are not taking it to the organized private sector. We're only assuming that they know they should be able to get involved, but we're rather looking at government. But yes, like Mr. Nanamba said, you cannot do without government. If you want to scale government, the policy direction is key as far as what we're discussing is. So to government, taking the conversation to organized sector, the big organization, just like sharing the idea now I've talked about, setting up hubs, incubation hubs that are driven and financed by larger corporations who can really muscle what it takes because the small enterprises, the one we're running right now, can really take us there. And then also trying to change the orientation about amongst our young persons. And also, Stephen also made a very very valuable contribution by saying that we also need to try and influence people within our own circle. That's our circle of influence, our spheres of influence them. For instance, we can start by ensuring or trying to make sure they are part of this conversation. The more we grow the community, the better it is. So, good, beautiful suggestion. Now, please, I know you wanted to say something, and now the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to ask the question again. The question I want to ask is when we talk about enabling the youth, when we talk about enabling social enterprise, um, and one idea that has been brought up is engaging the large organizations that are already there in Nigeria. That's great. I'm also thinking about from an international perspective. Okay, you may have some international organization that may want to invest in Nigeria, but when you think about the climate in Nigeria, the mentality in Nigeria around things like people are always looking for short-term benefits or the lack of trust. How do we develop those things? Because if you don't have foundational trust in people, you can't trust them to invest in them. You cannot trust them to put money in their hands. You can't trust them. How do you change that, and how do you overcome that? How do you overcome that if what are some ideas that an international investor can consider to overcome that?
Okay. You're asking that as a question, right? The issue of trust. How do we overcome that?
Right.
Well, the issue of trust, as far as trust is concerned, um, yes, we know Nigeria has a dent image when it comes to trust. Some foreign organization may not really trust Nigerian enterprise or Nigerians to invest their money. But I could say that, what I would say is that as far as trust issue is concerned, there are some results, veritable results by some of these organizations that we can showcase. For instance, Facebook came to Nigeria, and when Mark Zuckerberg came, not Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg himself came a couple of years ago and struck this partnership with CC Hub and I think co-creation hub. And today we have what we call the NG hub in Lagos. I've visited there a couple of times. I've gone to for some programs, and the NG hub is more like an incubator too, and that's running and it's working and it's functional. We have they also invested in come on, what's this people? God. I mean, there are veritable results where we could showcase that yes, these organizations are actually doing and investing the money that is coming from outside the country into what it was actually meant for. Um, oh my God, how come these people's names just keep my memory now? There are lots of veritable evidence. So I would say that the only way we could build trust is we should keep doing what we're doing and doing it well. We're doing it in Nigeria. We're trying at Eureka the little we can with our meager resource. We're trying. There is no way we can build trust. The only way we can build trust is just do it. Keep doing it. Okay, Manuel, you want to add to what I just said? Okay, go ahead.
Sir, please, to also add to what you've said, sir, I think you've actually made the entire. I want to add to it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. In terms of trust, ma'am, I know it might be very common for people to say they can't trust Nigerians, but I think there are still some few firms, even in this country, that still gain that ground. Like Mr. Oko has mentioned a few, there are still few firms that are Nigerians owned by Nigerians that are still, I mean, that could still stand that ground and people could say yes. But the truth is, I think the investment should be more of let's concern about we are investing on the people, not the establishment itself. For example, if you're involving international bodies, just like the way they run scholarship, the scholarship doesn't really need to come and say this school or that school. It's like okay, we are giving scholarship to Nigerians who are actually smart or this with good results. Come and study off. So now, just the way that is, I think, except maybe if I'm getting it wrong, the idea. But if I am, I think if we consider that, we'll see that we are dealing with the individuals now, the beings, not really the Nigerian kind of structure like the companies. So if we actually considering international, I think what we should be picturing more is the individual assets, not really considering bringing the body or the companies. Even if we are bringing the companies, we still have companies that we can also project that are also trustworthy, like they've gained this trust over time. For example, in Uyoye, at least everybody can always talk about it all. It's good, it's somewhere that if you give them a project, they will deliver on it. So we still have a few. I know, yes, it's true that we might have that issue of trust, but I know still that there are still companies that we can still project and will still get the right attention. But what I think is, like he said, we keep doing. Ma'am, I'm proud to say I'm a Nigerian, and we are good. We are trying. We are coming up. we are going to get there. So if the trust is the issue, I think we should keep trying. When we keep trying, they keep seeing our work. Probably we could also get some heads on from them.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Mr. Oko, can I chip in some?
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, just to add a little to what my brother spoke about. There's a concern I have that has to do with especially education funding in Nigeria. If you look at the Indians, there's something they leverage on. If you see the way they are exporting IT talent to the world, you ask program, maybe some of us may have a knowledge of it. You call it Empower funding. I don't know if any of us have. Is an educational funding program for postgraduate studies in the US and Canada. It was an idea that was conceived by some students who went to study in the US and Canada. I think some Indians who came together and came up with that. And what was the brain behind it? They were looking at a funding program that will enable them to train their talent, those who are interested in IT and other courses that will help them to export their knowledge back home and develop their own country. Where am I going to? Let me use an example of an experience, a direct experience. In 2010, I was privileged to have participated in an NDDC postgraduate scholarship program from my state and from Abia. I came first, and subsequently, there was an oral interview that was done. I can't forget one of the officers of NDDC who told me that, as far as it's concerned, I should get, if I want to get this scholarship, even if I like, I should come first or whatever, I should go and get a recommendation from either a governor from my state or a senator or house member.
Yeah, that's always the case.
It was a huge challenge. I can't remember what happened. Then I had one of my my uncles who was privileged to be the deputy governor of the state then, Ananaba, too, by name. I went to him. He couldn't offer me that due to maybe I don't know what was maybe between him and the governor. Then that is by the way. But the bottom line of the course I wanted to go about studying, I read my background. It's a mechanical engineering first degree. I got a course in Cranfield University, gas turbine technology. I wanted to. It was a program I wanted to embark on so that I can bring back the knowledge back home. Where am I heading to in all these things? We are having a challenge of funding education in this country. Look at the statistics you drew about the percentage we are committing to education funding in Nigeria. We say it's a joke. A country that is keen about developing its human resources cannot be investing as less than 5% in education. You are just joking. So how can we engage the organized private sector to fund education, especially even postgraduate scholarship? How many listeners are into funding postgraduate? Very few. Like now, I think most of any bank who you can go and access education loan to travel abroad to study for any program. I cannot. I've been able to engage this standard Chartered Bank. I discovered such things. There are a lot of them, especially those of them who have a foreign affiliation. They are not into all those kind of programs that enable people access resources to go and develop themselves in any knowledge area they want and come back and add value back home. So these are the issues we need to look at seriously. The Indians are leveraging on it and they are developing their nation. The kind of IT talents in India, if you do the estimate of the number of Indians who are impacting the economy of America, impacting the economy of that is in North America and other parts of Europe, it's something else. They are leveraging on exporting of IT talent, and you cannot export until you develop. You must develop before you export. We really need to engage, find a way of engaging the banks, engaging even NGOs, engaging relevant stakeholders who can help and look into education funding. Because in everything we are talking about, if the funding is not there, we are wasting our time because it's key to whatever we want to achieve. That's my own take for now.
All right, that's great. I think great suggestions and input from everybody who has spoken. We were almost Time. I guess we need to shut this session, and because we've exhausted our time. In fact, what this is getting to is almost about 2 hours of conversation. So I've taken note of all our contributions, and I'll see how, on my own part, share this conversation, share what was said today, and without really trying to read what the person said, and see how we can scale what we're doing. It's very important for us to engage stakeholders such as corporate organizations, government, and also let's not take for granted what Steve says about us also trying to get people within our circle of influence to be part of the conversation, part become aware, because like you said, like we likely mentioned, a lot of persons are not aware of the impending doom. I just use the word doom because if Africa and Nigeria is currently a poor nation and the world is changing in such a fast pace and we don't to realize, then we're only going to impoverish ourselves and the generation after us the more. The future of jobs or the future of work is real, and we must, and like I said, the emphasis of my presentation today was that the young population in Africa is Africa's greatest asset. If Africa wants to leverage, if Africa wants to compete, if Africa wants to break away from poverty, Africa as a must, invest in the young population. It is our comparative advantage. It is our competitive advantage. In the next 10 years to come, 10, 15, 20 years, the entire world will be zeroing on Africa, the workforce. That is the truth. It is not go come. They will be zeroing on Africa because Africa will have the largest percentage of the working population will be from Africa. So Africa would be the time Africa will move away. Africa should get itself out of the current debacle or the current situation in the next 10 years because of the aging continent. So I guess we'll need to call
Hello?
for now. Go ahead. When are you having with your mic? I'm trying to
All right.
say something, but
I just want to chip in. Hello?
yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I can hear you,
Hello?
and I'm sure it's as
All
if
right.
you're not hearing. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm hearing you. I just want
Okay.
to chip in a little. What I have in mind to solving our problems here in Africa and in Nigeria, my country. I really appreciate you for your lecture, or what you say, your slide, and your information and your awareness you have created to everybody here. But what I come to see in my country is this: we are under a set of manipulation that keep winding people to move and behave in a particular pattern over time. We can just finish this discussion like this, and then nothing happens. It's possible. I've been thinking. I want to believe we are not the first, positive youth who have, set up something like this to talk to people. But today, where are they? Where are those people who were talking to people? So we have to learn from where they make the mistakes. Now, everything boils down to the government in my own country. And I say we cannot really move forward without the government. They hold the green part of the development of the country. All right. So, according to what um quick info to a man said, that was the person I was talking. He said about we cannot break someone's head to took the book, and pertaining to how our youth are behaving today is because of the manipulation they have been said to move. The government are talking to us telepathically, and we listen to them. So, say we have an opposite force that is acting to that of the government, we cannot really succeed. We need to break out of this manipulation. This is we start by going to the young people to educate them. You said you have children, fine and good. They go to school. I wanna believe. When they come back, what do you tell them? Till our children start chanting the song of freedom, we won't be free from this manipulation. That's the truth. And pretending the mindset, we need to change the mindset. Why you see many of our youth like this is because of the mindset they have been manipulated to move right from that tender age. Look at it. A child starts school, maybe start the primary school, secondary school, and no good education, no grooming. You see that when he grows old or when he gets bigger, he becomes wayward. So trying to change the mindset of the youth by giving them proper education at a very tender age is very, very important. So I think we go to that aspect and change them. I have a cousin who is studying in Redfield International School. I think it's one of the biggest schools here in EU. He comes back and I try to see how he interact with his other students in school. I asked him, who have you been talking to? What do you discuss about? Honestly, as I'm telling you, they talk about money. They want to be flimsy. They want to, enjoy life. They don't have the sense of responsibility of leading the next generation. They don't have that thing in them. So let's go back to the young people and talk to them. If you don't, go back to the past and correct the mistake our leaders make, this ship will keep tilting to the end of life. It won't change. So there's a manipulation that this country is moving. Come to see it, we have good people. They talk out and they speak up. What happened that they are thrown into cells? The government has rejected this thing. So we need to, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but let's go back to the younger ones. Go back to schools, talk to children, let them know why they need to be free.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, I get you. That's public sensitization, which is I want to read what Fasholu, is it okay? Fasulu Ayodeji dropped something on the chat section, and it says there should be a kind of public sensitization on the issue of job disruption. Very key. Mentors should be available to put the interested youth through. Government should also provide good policy that can fast track this technological development in Africa, and some of these hubs should do more of free trainings. Okay, yeah, Fashalu, I think Yodeji, you've said what you're saying it's correct. But I must say that the part you're talking about, some of these hubs should facilitate more free trainings. Well, I think the hubs are doing a lot of free trainings, I must say. So I don't free trainings. I know there are some paid trainings, but there are lots of free trainings available out there that are being driven by small different hubs across the country. Then government should fast track. Okay, then government should also provide policy. Okay, good policy, and that means we need to engage the government. We need to engage the government. Somebody want to say something? Okay, so I just read out what
Mm.
on the chat section. Uh, we shouldn't about an hour but they decided or scheduled to start by 8. We'll spend 1 hour minutes of conversation and conversation. I guess maybe we should continue the conversation on the group chat if necessary. I wouldn't want us to spend more time online. So I don't know if Niles, are you still with us? Could you please do us the honor of wrapping up today's session?
Yes, thank you so much. Thanks everyone so much for coming to the webinar and not just merely coming and listening. I really want to thank Mr. Oko for an awesome presentation, and just letting us, or doing the research and discovering a lot of details about the fact that we have a lot of resources, yet we're not actually leveraging those resources, and just letting us know from a fact findings perspective. So we really appreciate that visibility. And I also want to thank the guys that are in the room. I thank you for your contribution. I really do think that, if we're able to hear from you guys, I think that will drive change, because you guys are our future. So thank you so much for that. With that said, next Saturday we'll probably have another webinar. Be on the lookout in the Eureka Lab room, or maybe the cybersecurity room. It will be posted there. So thanks everyone for coming, and maybe we'll see you guys next week. Same time, same place.
All right. Thank you, guys. Good night. And thanks for
Have a
your
good one.
wonderful. Yeah.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Now, can you hold on a while?
Yes, I'll stay on the line.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you
May.
for joining.
And thank you, Mabel. Thank you, Ayodeji. Thank you, Mr. Nanamba.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Emmanuel, Sam, everybody, thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
This is my first time having this kind of hair. No, it's my first time doing this kind of hair. I feel better. No, it's okay. We have one more person. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and just expel Miriam.
Okay.
Just hang on. All right.
UB is back.
I don't know why he's coming back, but Yubi, what's up? Did you come back purposely, or was it in error?
Hello?
Yeah, Yubi, what's up?
I'm cool, I'm cool. Anything?
Did you come back in purpose, or are you okay?
I'm okay.
All right, good. I'm gonna stop the recording.
Oh, you were still recording?
Imagine that.